What is going on, everybody? We are back at it again with another episode of Stats Over Politics, episode 117. This is your man, Kevin Dent. I am joined by Kaz today. He is a recurring guest with us every week. Toddy is on dad duty for a little bit. He will be joining the show only for the audio-only listeners. And Shaun, the host of the show, is in the middle of a move. As you guys can see, for the audio-only listeners, you can't see. I have a new background. Kevin is moving as well. So Shaun is in the midst of his move. I am in the midst of my move. So life happens. But going on for this episode 117, Kaz, how you doing today?
Not bad, man. Had a long day of just work stuff, personal training stuff, potentially a new gig, possibly, and just kind of some revamping some things with my streams and possible content creation. So just a lot of brainstorming, a lot of moving around today. So I'm good now that I'm home.
Hey, man, I feel that. I completely feel that. I have had a hell of a day. I've had a hell of a weekend. Last weekend, it just didn't work out. I was in the midst of the move. Shaun was in the midst of the move. So it just didn't work out. Well, like I said, I'm continuing my move. Took Monday off, cleaning the old house. So just a lot of work, getting my hands dirty and doing what has to be done. So, like I said, Toddy will be joining us later, so we're going to skip into some things that we were going to skip into earlier. So, Kaz, since we missed last Monday, there has been receiver after receiver after receiver on the move. Started with Amari Cooper, Davante Adams. So, what were your thoughts on all the receivers that have been on the move? And then today with DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah. Well, for those three specifically, man, I would say that let's start with the main one, Davante Adams. We all kind of saw it coming. I just didn't respect the result when he got there. It didn't seem like it really worked out in a way that it probably will eventually work out, starting probably this week, actually. But when he went there, I don't know. I just kind of was like, it's the only place I could see fit. I mean, they get rid of Robert Saleh. Aaron Rodgers seems very unhappy. Garrett Wilson did start to find his groove, but all in all, I mean, the last 2 weeks was pretty good for him, but they still are missing that secondary piece. Allen Lazard is not a bad, third option, I would say, but he's not a number two, and clearly neither was Mike Williams. So with them getting Davante Adams, I think it makes sense. I know a lot of fans are like low key kind of, Aaron Rodgers needs all this help. It's really not a ton of help. I mean, there's a lot of good receiving cores in the league. This is just going to be another one of them. So I think that the move made sense. I like the move personally. I'm still high on the Jets. I think that I ain't gonna lie to you. I want to see the Jets do good. I really do, because I thought that the Dolphins were going to be doing really good when it came to that division. And now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, obviously the Dolphins are dealing with what they're going through. The Bills are the Bills. Then you got obviously the Patriots, and it's like, no, like it's there for the taking. I want to see if the Jets can surge and give us some good football moving into later weeks, as they're down right now in the division. And this move with Davante Adams was huge. And if they're going to do it, they would need something like that to happen. So the Davante Adams move was one that I saw coming, and I'm glad that it happened in the way that I first saw it. As for like Amari Cooper, that's huge. That's probably just as big, if not bigger, than the Davante Adams move, only because Josh Allen, he needed a wide receiver one. It's just point blank period. Garrett Wilson is a wide receiver one. Aaron Rodgers already had that. Josh Allen needed a wide receiver one, and he went and got it. And I can't wait to see how that pans out for the Bills. Again, that division, I think it's going to be kind of up for grabs when it's all said and done. The Jets have to get on their P's and Q's. I'm not sure what the Dolphins are going to do, if they're going to make a surge back. Probably not, but I think that the Bills did it. I mean, if the Bills didn't get Amari Cooper, it'd need to be Davante Adams or somebody of that caliber. So I think that Amari Cooper being, I believe he's a tad bit younger than Davante Adams, if I'm not mistaken, and just as explosive, not as good as I'd probably say he's not as sure-handed as Davante, but both of them are really good route runners. Both these guys don't really rely on a max amount of speed to get the job done. And so I don't think that whether they went the route of Davante Adams or they went the route with Amari Cooper, that they're really losing anything or gaining much of anything. I think it would have been a very even move for both of them. So the Bills getting Davante Adams or getting Amari Cooper was perfect. And I mean, that's just that. And that's the last one. Who's the last one that moved? It was
DeAndre Hopkins
to the Chiefs. I'll believe when I see it. That's one of those ones where it's like he is older. He has lost a step definitely. He's injury prone, I would say. I mean, he hasn't had a super healthy season for a while. And even when he did have a healthy season, did he really have a quarterback throwing to him? Don't quote me on that. I'm not really sure, but I don't believe so. So DeAndre Hopkins looking like a shell of himself. Now he's got the best quarterback in the NFL all around throwing to him, and he's on a very good football team. He went from a very bad football team, one of the worst in the league, to the best football team in the league right now. So this should work out good for him, but I gotta see it first. So it might be kind of like how it was with Davante Adams going to the Jets. We might not really see much of D-Hop the first week, but we'll find out.
Continuing on DeAndre Hopkins, everybody's making such big news of this trade. We have seen the Chiefs do this for the past 2 years. Kadarius Toney, they trade for. Next year, Mecole Hardman, they trade for. This year, DeAndre Hopkins. The Chiefs are always aggressive. Andy Reid and this organization understands their window. They're not messing around. They know Travis Kelce is getting older. You got Patrick Mahomes. Rashee Rice is out. Xavier Worthy is a speed demon. No one wants to see him, but he is not a number one. For him to go out there and have to be the number one, we saw that it just wasn't working out. They had to go get something else. Without DeAndre Hopkins, they were just going to be able to double team Travis Kelce, and that was going to be that. But for DeAndre Hopkins to come in there and not fill that Rashee Rice role, but be able to bring some productivity to that wide receiver room that desperately needs it. They're getting Pacheco back soon, so to have Pacheco, and Kareem Hunt in the backfield, they're going to be loaded in the backfield. This team likes to run, and I know that this is kind of crazy to say, but the Chiefs defense is going to carry them. They're going to keep them in every game. They every week after week, we see that they are continuing to make plays. No matter what, they're winning games. They're keeping games close, and then when it comes down to winning games, Patrick Mahomes is going to win the game. Going on to Davante Adams. I don't think this was going to fix everything. The Jets have a lot of problems. They came into this season with a top 10 projected line, and they're ranked in the bottom half of the league. They're not playing well. They have the names. When I'm sure Kaz, we've been in the NFC East. When you see Tyron Smith going to the Jets, you're thinking, okay, he tore his ACL or Achilles last year. They're bringing in reinforcements, and he's just looking like he's just a step behind. Their guys they're young, and then they have Tyron Smith, who's not really doing his thing. Garrett Wilson has been struggling. I know the past couple of games he's been doing really well. Trust me, I know because I have him on fantasy. So for him to get going as of late, and you make this move a week after firing your coach, it seems like they're kind of all in a frenzy. And Aaron, you kind of have to ask yourself, who's calling the shots? Is it Aaron Rodgers? Because everyone he wants is coming in. So now what does this do? Does this take away from Garrett? That's the question that brings up to it. And then I saw a report that people were calling on Garrett. He's the number one. Is he going to be okay being a number two? We don't know how much longer they have, but it's just crazy to me that Davante Adams left him in the first place, because the reason he left was because he didn't know how long he was going to play. And today he still doesn't know how much longer he's going to play. So that's really interesting. Did you have something to say about that, guys?
I actually forgot to touch base on that. So I was going to say the whole Garrett Wilson thing. I think that at the same time, when I said, I think it's a good move. All in all, I think it's going to help out a lot. It could be the polar opposite. It could be a terrible, terrible move if Garrett Wilson isn't happy. And I actually forgot to mention that earlier. So I think that Garrett Wilson is first off, Aaron Rodgers definitely calling the shots. Secondly, he's got to be calling the shots. Secondly,
100%.
I think that he's going to have to find a way to get these guys the ball. It's rare. I mean, you think about even us as Eagles fans, it's very rare to find a guy like Davante Smith who accepts that secondary role when he knows he can be selfish and complain about it and, ask for a bigger contract or go somewhere, things like. I don't know Garrett Wilson that well as an individual. I ain't gonna lie to you. He's not somebody I really have studied or followed like that. But if it gets to the point where he's not getting his target share, I mean, more often than not, we know how this turns out. So this could get really bad if Davante Adams is the guy getting the targets. I think that the offense personally should run through Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams be the guy on the back end of it, not the opposite. Not the opposite. That's just me personally. I don't think that's going to work out if they make Adams the primary receiver and he's averaging 3 or 4 more targets a game than Garrett, who is usually open almost every play. So
it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic. And then ending on Amari Cooper, it kind of just goes to show when he looked at Keon Coleman and it's rumored that he told him to play and he scores a touchdown. This has been a receiving core that we saw Stephon Diggs leave, and the question was who steps up. They draft Keon Coleman. Everyone thinks Keon Coleman's going to be the number one. 7 weeks in, it's Khalil Shakir. He is the number one receiver on that team. You got Dawson Knox, who is young and upcoming. They have another tight end, but his name is slipping my mind.
Dalton Kincaid?
Yes, Dalton Kincaid. They have Dalton Kincaid. You add Keon Coleman to this mix, but now that you add Amari Cooper, a dominant number one receiver, in this mix of young guys, I think this is going to only help Josh Allen's case for not only MVP, but for this team to have relevancy in the AFC. We see the teams around them in their division. You see the Dolphins, they're getting Tua back. We're going to see what that's going to be. We see the Jets. So the Patriots are the Patriots. So as of right now, they have a grip on the division. So why not go all in? This defense is playing out of their mind. So as long as you have Josh Allen, who has not thrown an interception this year, who led the NFL in interceptions year after year. So he's finally figuring it out over there. He doesn't have to sling it. He came out there and said it's refreshing to have guys that just want to go out there and play. They don't care about their stats. And he means it, and you see it out there. There's nights when James Cook scores 3 points, 3 touchdowns in the first half, and the game's over. You know what I mean? They have a lot of weapons over there. So the Bills are going to be something to really be worried about coming into the future and in the following weeks. So, Cass, we got some comments that we are going to get to. Always, Uncle Manny showing love. He says, love that everyone's moving up. Have a great show. We appreciate it, Uncle Manny. We have my man Hassan. He said, is this a live show? Yes, sir. This is live. And then, we have Jaevon Toddy. He says, Kevin is mad he didn't get Ray Davis in fantasy football. He didn't do nothing this week. I got him in another league, Toddy, and I was very disappointed. James Cook is back, and they don't run 2 backs. It's James Cook, and when he needs a breather, someone else is going out there. So I was kind of hurt that Toddy got him in our league, but other leagues I got him. So I ate the L regardless. He had 11 points. My bad. I couldn't tell you. I didn't start him. So he was on my bench. And I didn't watch the game. So now I know to start him next week. So moving on, we had the Baltimore Ravens beating the Buccaneers 41-31. Kaz, I know this game got gruesome late. We saw stars go down left and right. What were your thoughts coming out of this game?
Well, first off, we'll talk about the stars that went down. I feel bad for the Bucs. On previous episodes of Stats Over Politics, I've given Baker his flowers. I'm like, I like him. He's a football guy. He's playing well. The team's rallying behind him. And then this happens. And it's just like, it's one thing to lose your number one wide receiver. It's another to lose both, especially in the way they did. We're not even sure that Mike Evans is going to come back in a timely manner. They're saying, possibly after week 11, but that's not guaranteed. And I'm saying that as a personal trainer, hamstring injuries are no joke. It's not as simple as 3 weeks off and you're good to go. You might be well in 3 weeks, but to re-aggravate it, it doesn't take much to re-aggravate it unless you're 100%. And this comes from someone who has torn their hamstring. So I'm here to tell you that when I saw that play, Mike Evans going down, I tweeted, I go, that's a hamstring tear. We'll see if they're hiding things and, not telling us everything that we need to know. And they're saying, oh, it's just a strain, which for most people don't know, strains, there's levels of strains that eventually turn into tears. It's just a stretching of the muscles. And after you stretch a muscle so far, we know what happens. It tears, but there's levels to the tear. There's a slight tear, there's a large tear, there's a complete tear. Just because it's not a complete tear doesn't mean that it's not going to take a long time for them to recover. So I'm just saying, you can be optimistic all you want about Mike Evans coming back. I think it said again, like projected to come back maybe week 11 after the bye week, or whatever. Maybe that's when the bye week is, or that's after the bye week. I'm not sure, but I kept seeing headlines of week 11, I believe. That's about a month. We'll see. Chris Godwin, that sucks. And now they left Baker out there high and dry, and Baker Mayfield might turn into the Baker that has been doubted in previous years because he hasn't had the freaking help. I mean, he's had guys, but like he's not
Mike
had
Evans.
receiving core. Yeah. Oh, and a Chris Godwin. You know what I'm saying? And in a very well, coached team. Like the Bucs are very well coached. I mean, they're Super Bowl champions just a couple years back. So it's like this isn't like this is just a nobody team that ain't nothing.
It's not the Browns.
And they beat the Eagles last year. And you know what I'm saying? So
shit, and this year.
Yeah, and this year twice. You know what I'm saying? This is clearly see, I even forgot about that already. This is clearly a good team, and now they lost two guys that have made that has helped make Baker Mayfield one of the candidates for MVP early on in the season. So that's just unfortunate. As for the turnout for the game, I mean, obviously Lamar Jackson, dude, I said it like when they got not Ray, but Derrick Henry. I said,
Derrick Henry?
Yeah. I think I did my own little podcast. I can't remember, but I said there is no dive deep into this take. They're going to dominate. Like there's this doesn't need to be analyzed and observed. And well, what about this offensive line, backups, injury prone? No. It's overkill. It's overkill, and we're seeing it firsthand. The fact that it took the Bucs losing these two guys, I understand Chris Godwin late. Mike Evans should have caught that touchdown, but again, he pulled his hamstring as he was catching it. That obviously affected it. That game could have been just as close as it was. Was it 10 point? Yeah, 10-point game. So a 10-point loss to the Ravens, who again kind of like took off at the very end there when the Bucs were kind of making a surge back. The Bucs just need to score one more touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, early in the fourth, which they had an opportunity to, and just unfortunate series of incidents. So the Bucs still are a really good team. It's just going to be unfortunate if they can't produce without these guys because they're going to have to. The Ravens were the better team. The Ravens should have won the game. I did pick the Ravens to win that game, but I would not have been. No, I picked the Bucs to win that game, but I would not be surprised if the Ravens would have lost the game if they would have kept Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So the Ravens won by 10. They again are the better team, but the Bucs were rallying back. I felt it. So just an unfortunate game. I think this game was a big loss for football fans. The better team won, but we lost the potential to see some good Buccaneers football moving forward.
100%. And I know Mike Evans and Chris Godwin was this offense. I know they had a lot to do with this offense. This offense still has a lot of potential. They still have Rashad White. We saw Shaun Tucker come out and go crazy. You have Bucky Irving. And then I know we all saw the wide receiver screens 3-4 times. Kate Otten is a huge part of this offense.
Yeah.
So are they going to hurt? Yes. Is this going to be detrimental? Yes. They still have a great O-line. They're going to be able to figure things out. I know that this, like Kaz mentioned, this team has Super Bowl DNA. They've done it a couple years ago. They're not that far removed. They still have some guys in that team that were there. They still have the coaching staff. They still have a lot of the guys. I know the head coach retired, but they just promoted a coach that was on the staff already. This Buccaneers team, like Cass said, has been showing a lot of good football. When Baker Mayfield got there, he has been rejuvenating his career. If you watched this podcast all last football season, Baker Mayfield, we talked about Baker Mayfield all the time. So I'm going to really be interested to see what this says, but we have a comment that I really want to get to. You're giving Tampa Bay excuses. Bro, come on. Don't do that. Lamar Jackson went over there and got 5 touchdowns and went home. 100%.
He did, but okay, he did, but the Ravens look like, first off, Lamar looks like the MVP for sure.
About to get to.
And the Ravens are a better team than the Buccaneers. So it's not like he just showed up, dropped 5 tutties, and they washed them. It's not that. If you think that, we were watching 2 different games. It wasn't like that. It kind of reminded me of the Detroit-Seattle game where it's like Detroit won by, I think it was by 10, 11 points, something like that. But they weren't watching the fact that, like, dude, there's drops, there's DK Metcalf who scored a touchdown that got taken back. Like they completely missed a touchdown to DK Metcalf. After reviewing it, or after their instant replay, it showed that he had both feet in and possession, but they didn't count as a touchdown. These things do factor into these 10-point victories. That's all I'm saying. So again, you're right. I am giving the Buccaneers a little bit of leeway because they're playing against a Super Bowl caliber team. Would you say the Buccaneers are a Super Bowl caliber team? I personally wouldn't say they're a Super Bowl caliber team. I think they're a playoff team, But to compare them to the Ravens is crazy. And the Ravens could have beat them by 20 just as bad as they beat them by 10 points. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
and they did.
But I know fantasy lovers love this game. Mark Andrews, back-to-back games with a touchdown. The rebirth of the tight ends. But Lamar Jackson is Lamar Jackson. When you think 5 touchdowns, you would have thought he threw the ball 32, 40 times. 22 times. He was 17 for 22 for 281 yards. He's not out there slinging the ball. The game is real simple. Now you have Derrick Henry, so get your hand under the center. Derrick Henry's 8 yards back. You hand it off. And then you see Lamar sprint down the field to block for him. This team is arguably one of the scariest running back quarterback duos ever. I know there's been a lot of great quarterback running back duos, but you have to put them in the mix. They haven't done anything yet, but through 7 weeks, Derrick Henry is on pace for 2,200 yards, and Lamar Jackson is on pace to get his second MVP in back-to-back years. Got to give him their credit. Rashad Bateman, what the hell? Coming up, making plays when he needs to make plays. Lamar Jackson doesn't lose. And like my man Hassan says, Lamar Jackson is 23-1 against the NFC.
That is nuts.
And that's crazy because he's letting them know, man, I'm going to handle business. Lamar Jackson doesn't really lose much. You know, when you see the quarterbacks in his division, the Joe Burrows, the Shaun Watson before he got hurt, there's a lot of guys in there. So for Lamar Jackson to stand out and with that company, and of course, everyone's going to lose to Patrick Mahomes eventually, you know? And when you lose to Patrick Mahomes, to the world is like, all right, you're right there. It's just Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. You're right there. There's been plenty of teams that are right there, and the Chiefs just continue to make play after play after play. So the Chiefs, can the Ravens now with Derrick Henry contend? I don't know. It depends on the Marlon Humphrey injury because he has been making plays this season. I have the Ravens defense, so he has been making play after play. Kyle Hamilton is one of the best safeties in the game. So the Ravens have a lot to look forward to. But now that we talked about that, let's go ahead and get to another game. I was going to kick this off for the Chiefs-Niners, but I would really love to hear Toddy's reaction. So we're going to have to hold that one off. So with that being said, Kaz, we saw a game come down to the wire in Green Bay, and the Packers were able to beat the Houston Texans 24-22.
Yeah, flip a coin. I don't know, man. This game was like one of those ones where if it was in Houston, because it was in Green Bay, if it was in Houston, the Texans probably win by a decent margin, I feel, personally. But I don't want to use that as, the major reason why this game turned out the way that it did. When it comes to a field goal to decide a game, that usually tells me that the losing team had opportunities to capitalize defensively, and they failed. That's just the way that it is. So, for example, usually, unless there's a huge, run back off a kickoff or a punt, you got 4 downs like any other team does in any given Sunday to keep teams out of field goal range, and that just didn't happen. It's just one of those games where I can't really say much about it. I love the matchup. I had it being high scoring. I think that my projection was 33-34 Texans, but I thought that after watching that game that it just was one of those games where if Houston was going to win on the road, which is Lambeau's a tough place to play, and Packers are they're a solid team. They're going to be there when it's all said and done. When it comes down to wire, you have to capitalize, and that right there is what separates phenomenal teams from great teams. You think about the Chiefs. Yes, we get it. They get help from referees all the time. You think about the Ravens. They don't usually play from behind a lot, but when it matters, like we just talked about Lamar Jackson, he makes the play when it matters the most. The Texans needed a defensive stop or to keep out of field goal range, and they didn't. That's it. So whenever I see a game, especially low scoring gets 24-22 for these two teams, when I see a game like this that comes down to a field goal, I'm like, the better coach team won. They found a way to get within field goal range, and the kicker did what he needed to do. And that's just it. So I don't really have much to say about this matchup and the turnout. I just was overall disappointed in the fact that it wasn't high scoring. But I mean, Green Bay, they got a pretty good secondary. I'm not sure if they're still leading the league in turnovers. I think they were up in interceptions for a while. They might still be leading the league in interceptions. But I mean, the Texans, they're not really known for anything other than having, CJ Stroud and at the time Nico Collins, but now obviously Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs. But it's not like we're hearing about the Texans like they were a couple years back. It's like, well, this is this defensive team that just they're showing up. This is a D'Amico Ryan's team where it's like, hey, these are some dogs on that defense. If you don't got guys like that going up against Jordan Love and that young receiving core who is hungry, and also add in Josh Jacobs, who is hungry and never to prove to the rest of the league that they are supposed to, they're meant to be a team that's going to go for an NFC championship game, right? You do what you do tonight, or what they did on Sunday, and that's put your team in position to win. So I'd say shout out to LaFleur. Shout out to LaFleur for keeping his guys straight and getting them in field goal range and, get in that position.
As an Ohio State guy, this game hurt me. CJ Stroud, after the campaign he had last season, 10 of 21 for 86 yards. Mm-hmm. I know Nico's out. Stephon Diggs, top 20 receiver?
Yes.
and he's still been doing his thing this year. And then you have Tank Dell. I know Tank Dell's not the greatest. He's better than a lot of number twos. Let's put it like that. A lot of teams would kill to have Tank Dell on their team. You have the weapons, dude. You have to go out there and do something. You can't do that. I know Joe Mixon is back. If you're relying on Joe Mixon to carry the football 25 times, it's going to be a long season because there's going to be one game where they stop that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're going to see him get hurt again, knocking on wood. You don't want to see it. 25 times is crazy. Saquon doesn't run it that much. Derrick Henry doesn't run the ball that much. Breece Hall doesn't run the ball that much. You're going to run this guy to the ground. And for Dalton Schultz to be your leading receiver, one reception for 28 yards. When Stephon Diggs came out before the game and was getting into the scuffle, I'm like, okay, he's about to have one of them games. First half, not good. Second half, changes the cleats, no better. Jair Alexander, the pack is back. Jordan Love, when his team needed the most, was able to drive them down there and get a field goal. Like Kaz mentioned, the better team won this game. If they have Nico Collins, do they win this game? You never know. Like Kaz mentioned, if this game's in Texas, they win this game. That's how close of a game this was. These teams are young and upcoming in their conferences. So to see them go battle it out, and like Kaz mentioned, Green Bay is not an easy place to play. Jordan Love, since coming back from his injury, has been killing it. He's been turning the ball over tremendously. But like Kaz mentioned, after we've seen a couple of interceptions from Jalen Hurts, if you're going to be a gunslinger, you have to take it. If they're going to throw 4 touchdowns and 280, there could be a pick or two. And if you just have to accept it because he's going to sling it. 24 passes, completions for 33 incomplete. And he went 24 of 33. Josh Jacobs, 12 carries for 76 yards. And then Romeo Doubs, 2 weeks ago, was told to stay home. 2 weeks ago, And now he's out here balling out. Christian Watson is going to come back. Devontae Wicks. They have Tucker Kraft. They have a lot of weapons on this Packers team. So this Packers team is going to shock a lot of people. And damn it, I say, are they going to win the division? The Lions are playing great, but so are the Packers. Now they
and Vikings.
Back. And, I truly don't believe this is – because they all have to play each other at some point. So we're going to see the dominance in one of these teams. So that's all I'm going to say on that. But moving forward – the Philadelphia Eagles win 2 games in a row, beat the Giants 28-3. Kaz, I know as an Eagles fan, we have been itching for a blowout, itching for us to see glimpses of that Super Bowl team. What did that Super Bowl team have, Kaz? Not even a great secondary. They had a great defensive line, 3-4 sacks a game. We were close to setting the sack record. And how many sacks do we get on Sunday? We had 8 sacks or 6 sacks?
I think we had 6. I know. 6. Well, I think the Georgia Bulldogs combined for 6, I believe it was. between
then I know Sweat. So I
Nolan
think
and
we might have gotten 8. I think we might have gotten 8. 'Cause I know Sweat got one.
because Josh Sweat, Sweat
I know
had
Brees
one.
Huff
Yeah,
got one. So I didn't know if it was 6 or 8. Because I did see the Georgia Bulldogs. That's all I kept seeing was 666. So that's where I got that from.
I think we got 8. At least 6, but I think we got 8.
But to see that performance, Cass, yes, everyone in the comments is going to say, Kevin, it's the Giants. No one thinks the Giants are going to be any good. But for us to go out here and put up a performance like this, Cass, what were your thoughts?
I'm glad it happened. I still would like for it to be more offensively dominant. Toddy. I would still prefer, this is me just being picky. I'd much rather see a dominant performance entirely on offense, not from one guy. Well, there was 2, but you know what I mean. Okay. I would like to see, I don't care, man. I want to see 3 touchdowns, 280, no picks, maybe 1 sack, and win in that fashion versus Saquon handling freaking business. Obviously, we're destroying the Giants just all around on the ground, which is awesome. AJ Brown, big touchdown, you know what I'm saying, which is awesome. I'll take it. I can't be too picky, man. I'll take it. I'm not unhappy about it. I just know there's more to this team. Even worse than 28-3. I'm serious. Like there's more to this team than a 28-3 blowout against the Giants. Okay. I would much rather this game be 17-40 than 28-3, if that makes any sense. Okay. Again, I'd much rather be 17-40 instead of 28-3 Eagles win with a cut. You know what I'm saying? I want that. I want to see that. So it needed to happen. These games until we get a good lead on the division. Okay, I understand Jaden Daniels hurt. Okay, it doesn't matter because if we stick around too close to the Cowboys and they get lucky and win a few games, then we end up in the same position we're always in, where it's like, oh God, who loses this week 15, and who wins? And all of a sudden, we end up on the ladder end of it, and it's like we're losing, and the Cowboys win out. So I don't want that. I don't want that. Okay, I want 8-2. I want 10. I want that so bad. So we have that cushion. So I would say I'm definitely glad that it happened. It was a must win. I did have us winning by 2 for some reason because the way we've been playing the last couple of weeks. I'm like, the Giants are for sure going to cover that 2.5 point spread. I think it was 2.5 or 3.5. I can't remember. I think it was 2.5 points, but it might have changed. But I remember saying for sure, the Giants are going to cover the spread, and I was dead wrong. So I was glad. It was a dominant win. We needed it, and that's all that matters. So 99.9% very happy with that performance, and we continue to own the Giants annually. So
truth be told, we are 12-1 when Jalen Hurts has no turnovers. When was that last game you asked that we did lose? Well, the last game was the 12-1. The one game was against the Bucs last season in the playoffs. The last 2 games, he has had 5 touchdowns, 378 yards, 67 completion rate, 0 turnovers. Like I said, 123.7 passer rating. He is going out there and doing what we expected all offseason, Cavs. What do we hear? He's gone so many passes without an interception. He's done this. He's done that. You have to you have, like Cavs mentioned, you have to watch the game. Against the Buccaneers, we have Johnny Wilson. we have Jahan Dotson. We have Brian Covey. We have Paris Campbell. We have Paris Campbell, excuse me.
Yeah.
We have so much going on. But now that we got our 2 guys back, we don't have Dallas Goedert back, but Caltera is coming and making a tear. That tight end room is one man goes down, the next man up. That is how our tight end room is. But to see this defense go out there and do their thing was lovely. Yes, everyone wants to talk about how many sacks we gave up offensively. We talk about this offensive line. When you have a Pro Bowl player in Jordan Mailata go down and Frank Johnson, no shame to him, because when we needed him to show up in the Packers game, he did. This is Brian Burns. All right? Brian Burns is no slump. So for him to go out there and do what he did shows a lot. Everyone wants to say that this Eagles offense is slow, Kevin. They're not putting up points. We lead the league in NFL and plays over 40 yards with 9. So you can say we're not explosive, but every couple games you're gonna see a couple go balls, whether it's Davante Smith or it's AJ Brown or it's Davante Smith taking a drag route 45 yards. We've seen that before as well. For Saquon to have 10.4 rushing yards per carry, we're never going to lose a game like that. Never. We're never going to lose a game like that. When your defense is playing the way they are, only giving up 3 points, overall, I understand the hatred Saquon went into that game with. He saw them burning his jersey, and he said, I was ready for 3rd and 1. And to an Eagles fan, I said, you ready to push Jalen? You're not going to run the ball. 3rd and 1, we're push tushing. But I understood what he meant by it. He was fired up. But as an Eagles fan, I was like, yeah, man, I don't think that's how this is going to work. But Vic Fangio has come in week after week and shown out. The last 2 games, we have not allowed a touchdown. So everyone can say this offense is not playing great, but this defense is playing phenomenal. We're seeing Nolan Smith. This is why teams get guys like Brent. We don't give up on guys like Brandon Graham because he was also a first-round pick that was slow to develop, and look what he turned out to be. Without Brandon Graham, do we get that strip sack in the Super Bowl? So we understand that it's going to take some time to develop. First-round pick, Jordan Davis. You see Nolan Carter. You want instant return on your investment. You see Jalen Carter do it. Why can't these other guys do it?
Right.
They got to take time and they got to simmer. Nakobe Dean, everyone wanted him. He's a Georgia guy. It should translate. Now look at him. Yes, he was dealing with injuries. We brought in Devin White, and everyone said, who is Nakobe Dean? We're bringing in Devin White because of who he is. Not on top of that, on our secondary, since Cooper Kupp has been in our slot, he has been the highest rated defender on the Eagles defense these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, he stepped up big time.
So he is stepping up big time. He is locking that up, and he's returning punts for 15, 20 yards. Cooper Kupp is an animal, and that's just one of our rookies. I didn't even get to Quinyon Mitchell. This dude, he has been making play after play. You know what? The only thing I would say about him, we got to start catching these balls, man. We got to get to the
right?
These are not 5 picks. You know, you'd have been dropping. I know, it's a rookie. You get big headed. You see the ball come in, and I understand. But as an Eagles fan, we need to start turning this up. But last thing I'm going to say about this Philadelphia Eagles team, AJ Brown, versus single coverage this year, 16 catches, 16 targets, 16 catches, 325 yards, 3 touchdowns.
He can't be guarded.
He can't be guarded one-on-one. And
No.
Jalen Hurts come out there and said, it's just the confidence that he has. Well, he knows when you guard him one-on-one, check. Let's do it. We're going to stop. I'm talking 4th and 1, Kaz. I'm thinking, all right, we're going to run the ball. There's no reason to pass. It's 4th and 1. We've been running. Saquon's been doing his thing. Nick, you're not going to fuck this up. Go ball, Kaz in the air. I'm like, fuck. There's no way. We needed 1 yard, and we're throwing it 40 yards down the field. No way. But you know what? It worked out.
Very ballsy. Very ballsy.
And AJ Brown is doing his thing. Unfortunately, Toddy is in the comments. Why are you guys dogs against the Bengals? Why are we the dogs against the Bengals, guys?
I mean, we're on the road for 1. For 2, I mean, the Bengals 115 2-point dogs this Sunday in Cincy. Yeah. I mean, we're first off. You got to give the home field just the swing. We all know that. Secondly, the Bengals. I mean, they are starting to find their groove right now. I mean, they started off looking like they weren't going to be a playoff team, but I mean, it's never happened. I think it's never happened in the history of NFL to start off like 0-3 and make the playoffs. I'm not mistaken, whatever it is. But it's like, well, the Cleveland Browns are in shambles. Pittsburgh, I mean, they're obviously a good team, but we don't know how good they really, really are. You know what I mean? And then you got the Ravens, obviously. As for the rest of the AFC, it's like, I mean, dude, you're seeing teams like the Texans lose games. You know what I'm saying? Not having as great a season as they are Miami Dolphins are shambles. Obviously, Patriots are trash. Look at the whole AFC East. It's like, are we going to say that these are teams that are going to 100% like just have a free pass to the playoffs if they don't win their division? I think that is a lot more open than what people think. So, and with them having the receiver core they're having, and Jamar Chase playing the way he's playing, and Joe Burrow playing the way he's playing, it's like I would say 2 points. I think 1 point would be more, comparable. I wouldn't say that we needed to be favorites on the road, though. No, I'm cool with that.
It is
because we're not. Yeah, we're not. Well, here's the thing, though. Like I said, outside of us beating the Giants the way that we did, like we're not. We haven't been like doing what the Ravens have been doing, or other teams have been doing, where it's like, oh, they're handling teams. So I get it. It's not a big deal. Now, do I think that that's going to be the end result? Is us not covering a 2-point spread? No. But I can respect that. We're on the road. We're going to Cincy, and it's really hard to streak together a bunch of wins. If we win this game, that's big. It's huge. So, at some point, every dog has its day. I'm not sure if our dogs that we played have already had their day, that being like the Falcons or the Buccaneers, which the Buccaneers are not dogs. Maybe that was us having our bad days. Now we're going to go on a huge streak, but I don't mind ever being dogs on the road when especially when a team comes off of a win. Sorry.
Yep. Tyler's just hurting because the Kansas City Chiefs beat the San Francisco Niners 28-18. Kaz, like we said with the Bucs game, yes, great game. A lot of things to talk about from the game, but we can't address the games without addressing the injuries. We saw Brandon Ayuk go down with a torn ACL. Debo played 3-4 snaps, went down. He was sick, had to go to the hospital, was in there for a couple of days. What are your thoughts on the Niners moving forward and then addressing this game against the Chiefs?
They got the Cowboys next. That's my thought. When I did my predictions, which I had to delete my video, I'm so mad. I had 2 hiccups in there, so I just wanted to scrap it. But luckily with you guys, we're keeping track of my record, my picks. So therefore, people won't think that I'm lying when it comes to my overall record, because I got receipts. But I said the Chiefs are the Chiefs. I'm not picking them to lose against a Niners team that they're showing many signs of weaknesses. We know that they have a great defense. We know that Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback. Okay, we're not taking from that, but they're lacking in areas. I mean, you know what? Let's just think about it for a second. We're talking about how great Jordan Mason is. I mean, maybe they need an elite running back to get it done. Maybe not. Maybe having a good running back isn't good enough, because we talk about how good he is, right? Okay, and then even when he went out, their other backup guy, he had a really good game. But you notice how the turnout of these games are. It's like they're not going out there and handling business the way that they're supposed to, especially with having guys like Ayuk there, Debo Samuel before he got hurt, and George Kittle's playing very well this season, also. So what's the excuse? Is it Shanahan? I don't think it is. I really don't. I think that the 49ers collectively are just a team that has been somewhat figured out. When it's all said and done, they're going to make the playoffs. Okay, even without Ayuk, though, if CMC or when CMC comes back, they get a couple wins here and there, they're going to be a team that if they don't win the division, which they probably still will, if they don't, they're gonna solidify a 6 seed or a 5 seed, somewhere around there. Okay, just because their defense is that good, and I believe they are well coached. But all in all, when it comes to beating a team like the Chiefs right now, the Chiefs might be the first team in NFL history to go undefeated all the way through the Super Bowl. Like, if they're going to do it, why would it not be this team? I mean, look at what they're doing right now and they're facing adversity too. No Rashee Rice, no Hollywood Brown. They had to pick up Kareem Hunt because Isaiah Pacheco went down. The first 4 weeks, Travis Kelce didn't do nothing, literally nothing. There's no excuse for them, and I'm a firm believer, and I said it once, I'll say it 1,000 times. Great teams find ways to win. I don't care how it looks at the end. Oh, the referees, this and that. It doesn't matter. Great teams find ways to put themselves in a position to win, which is why, as much as people hate to look at the stat line, Mahomes is still one of the front runners for MVP. That's why. Because when it's all said and done, his stats may not be the prettiest. He's putting his team in positions to win. And it's not that he's just existing and these things are happening around him. No. It's just not coming down to a game-winning touchdown on a crazy scramble by him. And he's not doing Lamar Jackson type stuff, but he's making plenty of plays that's leading up to these wins. So when it comes down to it, the Chiefs, I thought, were the better team, obviously, on the road against the Niners. I did pick them to win, and I think that even if these injuries don't happen, the Chiefs still win this game. I know Toddy's going to disagree probably, or Niners fans are probably like, well, no. Well, yes. Yes, the Chiefs are going to win this game. They're just better. I don't really know exactly why, but they are better. They're finding ways to do it with less, and you guys are not. It's that simple.
Sorry, Kaz, my dog heard something. So moving forward, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs, you said his stats aren't the prettiest. Him and Peyton Manning share a stat. In the last 30 years, they're the only quarterbacks to have throw more interceptions than touchdowns to leading their teams to a 6-0 start. Both of those, the last time this happened with Peyton Manning, it ended in a Super Bowl. So is Patrick Mahomes going to get that same result? The only time will tell. Patrick Mahomes has not been taking care of the football. He hasn't been throwing the touchdowns as you would think. So, like Kaz mentioned, he's going to be the MVP solely because he is making the plays to win these games.
Yes.
Without Patrick Mahomes, this team is not 6-0.
No.
Patrick Mahomes in 6 games has thrown 6 touchdowns. Yep. Andy Dalton in 6 games has thrown 7 touchdowns. And in 3 games, Big Joe Flacco threw 7. Yes, you can say Rashee Rice. Yes, you can say Juju Smith. Yes, you can say Xavier Worthy's dropping. He's falling down. They have a lot of things going on. It's Patrick Mahomes. With those stats being said, you're 6-0. That just doesn't happen. This defense is making plays, picking off Purdy 3 times. Like Cass mentioned coming into this, everyone thinks Purdy is a very, very good quarterback. 3 interceptions, 17 for 31. They made him look pedestrian. Patrick Mahomes, 16 of 27, 154 yards. He also had 2 interceptions. He's not putting up miraculous numbers. Kareem Hunt came from his couch, 22 carries, 2 touchdowns, doing this thing. If you would have told me these were his stats, I would have said they're 3-3. Noah Gray is leading the team in receiving yards and catches, 4 for 66 yards. Noah Gray. If you would have told me that, I'm saying they lost the game by 2-3 possessions. This was just a bad game. They pulled the guys. That's why Noah Gray was out there. That's what I would think. But Travis Kelce, week after week, has been up and down. This has been a year of tight ends kind of going up and down. So to see him have a good game one game, come and not have a good game, has he lost a step? I don't want to be the guy to say that because Travis Kelce, year after year, he's like the Mike Evans, consistently 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards, 1,000 yards. Yes, he was short last year by 30, 40 yards, but he missed the game. So he doesn't do that. He continues his streak. But Toddy has a comment. He says, hospital Niners. And that's the fact, man. Everyone is going down for you guys. And it's really unfortunate because no one wants to see their team go through all these injuries because when you want to watch football, you want to watch all 53. You want to see everybody healthy. You want to see teams go mano-a-mano. Before I move on, my dad is a huge Niner fan. And he told me, Kevin, it's like watching the NFC Championship against you guys all over again. We go through 2 quarterbacks, and we just don't got a shot. We got guys out there that don't get no reps during the week, coming out there having to make plays. Going into this game, missing Jawan Jennings, and then Brandon Ayuk going down and Deebo Samuel. A lot that the Niners have to do. But like Kaz mentioned, it could be worse. You have the Cowboys next. So, moving on, we are going to get through our Week 7 NFL recap. So, Kaz, I'm going to throw it to you first. What were your thoughts on the Broncos putting down an ass whooping to the Saints, 33-10?
Just a team that I'm wrong on. Apparently, I don't know, man. The Broncos are some defense is good. Offense, they're kind of like the Chiefs. You see what I'm saying? They're doing the thing where it's like you watch them play, and when they're winning, you're like, you're beatable. Then beat them. Beat them. Like what can't be figured out if they're that bad of a team? You talked about Patrick Mahomes' stats of pretty much playing one of his worst seasons, if not his worst season that he's ever started in his career. Okay. But like I said, when you watch, saying every snap of the game, okay, there are things in between all of the things that they're not doing that factor in. Okay, so yeah, there's interceptions, there's turnovers, there's whatever. But it's like, okay, what about the play where he extends the play with his legs that no one ever just forgets about? Huge play and things like that. But back to the Broncos, it's just like I don't have a take on them, man. It's such a weird team. They're not supposed to be good. They have a very bad offense. Bo Nix, from what I can tell, is not a good quarterback at all. He's a footballer, but he's not a good quarterback. He looks like just like a varsity quarterback who's a senior, who's on his last hoorah, who's just going out there and trying to do whatever he can do just to get a few stats here and there. And you know what I'm saying? And if he throws a pick, cool. If he runs the ball for 50 yards, cool. No matter what, he's got the starting role, and somehow, some way, his team's rumbling and fumbling into these wins. Now, I'm not saying they're a great team, but what I'm saying is just like they should be losing a lot of games. The Broncos should have I would give them 2 wins this season. And that's it. And that's putting it very lightly. But their defense, like I said, is good, and they're finding ways to win. And I think that's going to be a big part of the latter end of the season. So now we're in the middle of the season. I think we're going to start to see these teams do what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done for a lot of years and just kind of win these games, 19-13, 17-15, because so many players are hurt, so many new guys on new teams, and like you're not seeing what's supposed to happen with all these superstars going here and there work out. So the Broncos are just one of those teams, and that's all I got to say about them. They're just one of those teams.
Moving on to the next game, we had another London game, again with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have been there, couldn't tell you how many times the past couple of years, and you sit back and wonder, why the Jags? Of all teams you can send over there. But they go over there, they stay there for the second game, and they get it done against the New England Patriots. Before I go on to the Jags, Drake May looks like he could be the answer at quarterback. The way he's played makes you wonder, why the hell didn't he start from week 1? You knew going in that this season was going to be a shit show. I know you want to protect him. You got to get him the experience. For 26 for 37, 276 yards, 2 touchdowns, he's taking care of the ball with receivers that no one knows of. He is their leading rusher with 18 yards with 3 carries. He is doing everything that he can. This Patriots team, I believe, has found their quarterback, and I think the timing is just right. When you brought in Cam Newton, it was really hard because that was the first quarterback to come after Tom Brady. Then you bring in Mac Jones, who is also after kind of Tom Brady, but then Mac Jones is now gone in Jacksonville as we speak, and then Drake May is just the guy who followed Mac Jones. So it's not that pressure on the New England Patriots as it was, like I mentioned, with a Cam Newton and a Mac Jones. Duval, baby. I am always a fan of the Jags. Doug Peterson will always have a place in my heart, so I'm always going to want to root for them. Brian Thomas Jr. is legit. People are saying he's better than Marvin Harrison. I think that's kind of crazy. Marvin Harrison doesn't get the touches Brian Thomas gets. And that's not saying Kyler Murray just doesn't throw him the ball, but Kyler Murray just kind of does what Kyler Murray does. He runs the ball a lot more than a Trevor Lawrence. So on those times when Marvin Harrison is open, Kyler Murray's taking off. Tank Bigsby. Travis Etienne, week after week, has not looked good. You can blame the injuries, you can blame the O-line, but Tank Bigsby, 26 carries, 118 yards, single-handedly carrying this team to a victory. Trevor Lawrence hasn't been playing the greatest this year. When you get that huge paycheck, people are expecting you to come in and give them return on investment right then and there. So he wasn't able to do that throughout the beginning of the season, but he has been playing great as of late, and he resulted in a win. So the Jacksonville Jaguars are still having to figure some things out, but this was a great win. Doug Peterson's seat got a little bit cooler. It's not as hot anymore. So I think moving forward, they are going to be able to make some things happen. They're 2-6, so they're going to have to win some games or they're 2-4, excuse me. They're going to have to make some things happen. So Kaz, moving forward, the Lions beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-29.
Hey, I will say this. That's probably the best division in football right now.
Yes, sir.
It's just fun. That was fun. That's just one of those games where it's like, okay, we know what both teams capable of. We know one team's undefeated, another team is not a joke. I believe I picked Detroit to win. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I picked Detroit to win. I don't have my paper with me, but like, dude, the Lions are like insanely good. Like they could be just as easily undefeated as they are with the record they have now. I think they have 2 losses right now, if I'm not mistaken. They're 5-2, right? Yeah, I think they're 5-2. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, 31-29. Just all around, just good performances from quarterback to Amon-Ra St. Brown to Jahmyr Gibbs. Finally, he looked like what we thought he's going to be coming in his rookie year. But again, next week we may not see that because they're just so well rounded. Detroit's just a fun team to watch. Minnesota's a fun team to watch too, but I think a lot of people are more so just cheering for Minnesota just because it's like, it wasn't expected to happen that way when McCarthy went down. Nobody had Sam Darnold doing what he's doing, but at some point, these undefeated teams are going to lose games. If there's going to be a team that's not going to lose, it's going to be the Chiefs, like I already talked about. The Vikings lost to a very, very, very good team, a team that was in the NFC Championship last year. That game didn't disappoint at all. So it came down to the wire. It was a very close game. It was expected. It was decently high scoring. Just good football all around. Good football around. And like I told you guys before, when a game is decided by a few points, you got to give credit where credit's due to the better coach and the execution of who has the ball when it comes down to it. Okay, so at the end of the day, Minnesota loses by 2 points to the Detroit Lions. That means that there was an opportunity there for them to kick a field goal and win, and there's also an opportunity there for Detroit to not allow them to be that, or to not be in that position and lose. Good football, can't complain about it. I hope to see more of that, especially out of that division, because I think it's going to come down to the wire. All it takes the Bears to win a couple more games, and it's going to get very weird. We know who the Vikings are for the most part. We definitely know who the Detroit Lions are. If the Bears find a way to actually show signs of being really good right now, we don't know. Their identity's kind of like, we'll see. That's 4 teams in that division that might look like how the AFC North looked last year, I think it was, where the entire division went above 500. So NFC North made a big step forward. NFC North matchups are going to be awesome. This was just another good matchup, and I think that the better coach team won.
100%. And we are going to move on to the Seattle Seahawks beating the Atlanta Falcons 34-14. This is a game that what you did not want to see with the Falcons. We've seen the game against the Eagles where he takes them down the field, drives them down the field to win the game. This was the Kirk Cousins that you didn't want to see. 24-35, 2 interceptions. Geno outplayed him. Geno Smith to go out there, 18 of 28 for 207 and 2 touchdowns. He didn't write back. I am a huge fan of Kenneth Walker III, and for him to go out there 69 yards and a touchdown. DK Metcalf, I say this week after week after week. We don't hear his name anymore when you talk about top receivers, but 99 yards on 4 catches and a touchdown. He is making play after play after play. He does fumble. He has a turnover problem. I get it. He has a temper. I get it. He goes out there and makes plays. We can't sit here and talk about Kenneth Walker and not talk about Bijan Robinson. 21 carries, 103 yards, 1 touchdown. He is what to be advertised. We heard that he was going to get a CMC workload, and that's what that looks like. Kyle Pitts, 7 receptions for 65 yards. This Falcons team is going to figure it out right now. The Saints are not healthy, so the Bucs are not healthy. You would expect for them to come out of this division. So they are playing really great right now. Drake London needs to kind of get back to what he was doing. He had a couple big games earlier in the season, but he's had some quiet games. Same with Kyle Pitts. So if you can get him, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson playing on their best any game of the week, they're going to be a team to play with because Kirk Cousins is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Moving on, Kaz, another game, unfortunately. We got to talk about the injuries. The Cincinnati Bengals beat the Cleveland Browns, and Deshaun Watson tears his Achilles.
I mean, I know people don't want to hear this, but sucks. They weren't good anyway, so it doesn't really matter. I don't think when it's all said and done if he played the rest of the season or not. dude just got a streak of bad luck, man. Some of that might have been self-inflicted, but all in all, it's like, I mean, he's gonna have one of the biggest just telltale stories when it's all said and done for him. Like where he started off, where his ceiling was at, to where he ended up. What I'll say is, like I mentioned earlier, the Bengals, I don't think they're a terrible team. Okay, very slow start to the season, but not a terrible team. Okay. They don't have a phenomenal team, but they got guys who can single-handedly take over this game. So you got the Bengals. Joe Burrow didn't look too crazy through the air. And he had T. Higgins with 82 yards, and that's all it took to beat this Browns team. It's not an impressive win by the Bengals. It's just an expected win, especially with Deshaun Watson going down. So the Browns are they're a bottom 3 team, if you were to ask me. I don't think that they were ever going to be great, even if when they got Nick Chubb back and things like that. There's too many missing pieces. And then now, you got to do it without, Amari Cooper. It's like, okay, well, good luck. Because all it takes is one of these receivers to go off on the Bengals, and that's going to be wraps. All it takes is about 16 points to beat the Browns, and you're good. And I think that goes on any given Sunday. So just a game where it was an expected win by the Bengals. Not really much to say about it stat-wise. Kind of a boring-ish game, but the better team definitely won that one. And again, like I said, watch out for the Bengals. They might put themselves in position to do something that's never been done. So,
all right, Cass, we're gonna have to throw a wrench in the show. I'm gonna have to take Blue to the bathroom. I text you the next 4 games, so if you don't mind going in depth on those 4 games, I'll be right back.
All right. So, looks like the next game we're going to talk about is the Rams at the Raiders, I believe it was. So, let's see. So, Raiders lost. We can talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the decision making by the Raiders head coach to kick a field goal when they were down. They ended up some people argue that the field goal was a good move because they need to get the ball back quickly, but at the end of the day, you still need a touchdown to win the game. So I vote, at the end of the day, you don't have a position to win off a field goal. You should just go for it. You're not a good football team. You no longer have Davante Adams, who hasn't been there anyways for quite a few weeks due to a hamstring injury. And then you are on the road in LA. Stafford didn't have a terrible game. He didn't have a great game. He wasn't working with much. Brock Bowers is still continuing to play well, had 93 yards. And Alexander Mattinson for the Raiders ended up with 92 yards rushing. So just one really bad team, another team that's just got a lot of missing pieces, battling it out. The home team won. And again, it's just another matchup where it's like, it's kind of expected. It's not that I didn't think that the Raiders were good enough to go out there and, pull off this upset, which wouldn't be a huge upset on the road. But the Rams are probably given the quarterback play alone, just a better team than the Raiders. So I think I said Ravens earlier, but Raiders. So LA won that game. For me, it was a no-brainer, and I'm surprised that they didn't put up even more points. LA, just again, from the quarterback play alone, going against this Raiders team, I could see more of a 24, 27 point scoring on their end rather than 20 points. So LA wins 20-15, and they're moving on, and they might turn some things around as some of their guys come back from injury. Moving on to the next game. It's an ugly game. Panthers at Commanders. So this is the game where Jaden Daniels went out, right? I believe it was. Sorry, this is one of the games I actually did not watch. But where's it at? I can't even remember where it's at, but no, this is not the game. No. All in all, 40-7, Carolina Panthers win. I kind of Toddy, when did Daniels go out? If you don't mind me asking, I know you're right here in the YouTube chat, but I can't really remember when he went out. But that's almost 6 late and still lost. Vikes got almost. Yeah. Oh, and Toddy mentioned about the Vikings game. He said that they got 6 fumbles late and still lost. He said Bears are winning it, which I think is kind of funny. But back to the Commanders though, 40-7 against the Panthers. Not an impressive game for Andy Dalton at all, as expected. And with Mariota in the game, 18 for 23, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. Don't know where that came from, but Not much to say about that. All in all, it's just, again, another matchup where you have these two teams, and one team is very, very bad, and another team, given their early quarterback play with Jaden Daniels, was a really good team, was the best team in the NFC East, and arguably one of the best teams in NFC before the Jaden Daniels injury. So, just an expected win by the Washington Commanders. I wouldn't foresee it being 40-7 with Marcus Mariota under center, but clearly it's just coming to show that when you're a really bad team, and when you're a really, really bad team, you're playing against a good team on the road, it doesn't take much to get it going. So, mainly shout out to Mariota for stepping up and having a solid game, even though it wasn't needed. They could have won this game, obviously, 10-7. But they won 40-7, another dominant performance. I'm not sure where they're at in points this season, but they have to be either 1 or 2 overall points this season. They've had how many games over 30 points? So, and this is me just spitballing fire from the hip. I don't know how many points that they're averaging this season, but they got to be either 1 or 2. That's my guess. So, Commanders win against the Carolina Panthers. Very much expected. Just surprised that it was by that margin with Marcus Mariota under center. Yes, so I did cover down the list the Rams, Raiders, and Panthers, Commanders. So we are on the Jets, Steelers.
Perfect. And just doubling down on what Cass said, this team has scored under 30 points one time. So they 40-7 last week, 30-23 the week before, 34-13, 42-14, 38-33, 21-18, 37-20. So this team can put up the numbers. But this next game, the New York Jets, Sunday Night Football, travel to Pittsburgh. All we hear about, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. They're back together. Sorry, Pittsburgh. Sorry, Russ. Your debute's going to have to wait because Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are together. Davante Adams essentially went from a 2-5 team to another 2-5 team, but one 2-5 team has his best friend. So it makes it all worth it. Aaron Rodgers, yes, Garrett Wilson, you can say, didn't make the plays. He made some drops and became interceptions. There are a lot of things that just didn't go their way. But the Jets, no matter what the offense did, we knew that the Jets defense was going to hold teams, no matter what. The offense could be shaky with Zach Wilson. It doesn't matter. This defense is going to hold down. To give up 102 yards to Najee Harris, 21 carries, it isn't great. Najee is another running back who's been up and down this season, but for him to go out there and have that dominance. And the reason they brought Russell Wilson in was because they wanted to get more big plays downfield. And boy, did they get it. George Pickens might have one of the best hands in the NFL. He's catching everything. 5 catches, 111 yards, 1 touchdown. George Pickens is an up-and-coming wide receiver. But like I mentioned, with Russell Wilson, the dynamic that he brings to this team, the play action, Justin Fields got them to 4-2. Everyone's saying, boo-hoo, Justin Fields. He shouldn't have this is his job to lose. They brought Russell Wilson in for a reason. They spent a total of $1.2 million on both of these quarterbacks. They're not invested in either one. They're going to give them both a shot to see who is going to be the quarterback moving forward. The New York Jets have a lot to figure out. We talked about earlier in this episode, Breece Hall finally came back to life, but that's not going to be enough. For Breece Hall to lead in rushing yards and receiving yards when you have Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams, there's a lot of things that you can say about that. So is that the last game? Cass, finishing up the Week 7 NFL recap. The Cardinals beat the Chargers 17-15.
This bullcrap, man. I think this might be one of the worst weeks in football yet when it comes to a lot of matchups because, you look at both teams. Look at the Chargers, okay? You look at the Cardinals. Both teams are not – Arizona had potential to have a high-powered offense, but, it didn't turn out the way that was going to turn out, adding Marvin Harrison Jr., which is fine. He's a rookie, and Kyler Murray's just not making his comeback. There's a high ceiling there, but, not like if they would reach it. So it's expected. As the Chargers completely changed their offense, and they're just such a slow offense now. You know what I mean? It's a hardball that offense. It is. And you look at the 17-15 score, okay? But Justin Herbert, 349 yards passing. All right. James Conner, 101 yards on the ground, and Will Dissly, the tight end, with 81 yards. He had a really good game. The fact that we went from seeing the Chargers have the potential to put a lot of points in Justin Herbert's early years to seeing him finally put up the yardage that we're used to him seeing. I mean, this guy he's a guy who, for the last like X amount of years, has been one of the top guys in yards, like in the league, to like almost like in the middle bottom tier when it comes to yardage. To kind of finally see it again with Will Dissly, apparently, it's just unfortunate seeing how these teams can't find a way to give us a good game. I don't know what it's going to take for us to get a good game out of both these teams. The Cardinals, I mean, I know week 1 they played the Bills. That was probably their best game that they played. I know they had another good game too. I'm not sure who it was against. In like a few weeks ago, I think it was maybe last week or a few weeks ago. But they had a pretty good game too. Pretty awesome performance. But outside of that, like they just look like nothing. So we have two teams that look like nothing. It's like, unfortunately, there has to be a winner. So it's just, yet again, like I mentioned earlier, this is just not really a good week, I think, for football games. And it's just one of those games where I'm like, we can break it down any which way, like we can talk about the fact that, Will Dissly, he accumulated for 81 of Justin Herbert's 349 yards. We can talk about the fact that, they couldn't score more than 17 points from either team. But it's like sometimes there's just bad football games. And I think this just was another one. I think there's just a handful of bad football games this year. And no matter how you break it down, no matter what you want to look at statistically, there's just not much to say about it. Okay, the Chargers had a chance to win the game, and they didn't win.
Definitely. And before moving on to the last segment of episode 117 of Statutory Politics, we have the man, the myth, the legend in the comments, Shaun Huckle. Thanks for holding it down, guys. Of course, Shaun, me and Kaz are going to handle business. Toddy had to go be a father, so we all know what comes with that. But Kaz, to end the show, we talked about the receiver frenzy that happened since our last show. So we have a this or that, but it's not just one player this time. It's not two, but it's three. So this is going to be this or that New York Jets trio of Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, and Garrett Wilson. First trio up, the Bengals, Joe Burrow, Jamar Gibbs, T. Higgins.
Give me the Bengals.
I'm about to say,
give me the guys who's done it before, and they're still doing it right now. I know T. Higgins isn't having an insane season.
I was just saying, I know T. Higgins is playing really good right now, but he's not better than Garrett, and he's not better than Davante. So now, talent-wise, Joe Burrow's better than Aaron Rodgers. That's what you're saying.
I need to see Davante do something first in New York because it could be just that time. I don't want it to be, but we've seen it before. Guys with big names leave, they're coming off of an okay season or a solid season, or they end up in Davante Adams' position where it's like they don't have a quarterback, and then all of a sudden that next year we never see them good again. We never do. So I need to see it first in New York. Give me T. Higgins, give me Joe Burrow, and give me Jamar Chase all day. I've seen Jamar Chase do enough alone to surpass both them when it comes to that duo. And then Joe Burrow and Aaron Rodgers Aaron Rodgers he's 40 years old.
That's 5 years ago, maybe.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Give me Aaron Rodgers, or Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. I don't think he's in his prime anymore. I think he's at the very beginning of being out of his prime. Again, I say this loosely. The very beginning of being out of his prime doesn't mean he's bad, because his ceiling was really high during his prime. But Joe Burrow's not. We thought he was going to show up and just they start off really bad, but turns out that he actually has not been having a bad season, low key, and they're doing it with.
They weren't bad.
Yeah, and so I'll take the guys who have been doing it consistently the past couple of years.
All right, next trio. The Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs. Give me Houston.
Damn, this is good.
Give me Houston. Nico Collins is arguably a top 10 receiver. Like we said, Stephon Diggs is top 20. Is Garrett Wilson top 20? You could say he is. But I'm going to take the Houston Texans. I know Aaron Rodgers is legit, and C.J. Stroud's only been in the league for 2 years. I'm going to take the Houston Texans.
I don't like this one, man, at all. I'm going to say, let me go ahead and take, man. Give Give me, man. We're gonna disagree, man. I can't now. Give me the Texans. Nico Collins was playing like the best receiver in the league before he got hurt. He was the best receiver. So Garrett Wilson was not, and neither was Davante Adams. So we got the guy who has been walking the walk, who has been playing with the best receiver in the league. Okay. And we got Stephon Diggs, who we know we're going to get out of him. He has more, obviously, time in the league than Garrett Wilson. And he was up there, year after year before he started kind of getting on, other teams or whatever with Davante Adams. I mean, they were talking about, Stephon Diggs being a top 5, top 7 receiver for multiple years. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just up until last year we're like, oh, he may not be top 10 anymore. You know what I mean? Give me the guy who's doing it right now, even though he's hurt, and a guy who we know
is going to show up every Sunday.
We know about Stephon Diggs, bro, and obviously CJ Stroud. Like, yeah.
This next trio, obviously, I made this list before the game. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Baker Mayfield. I'm taking the Jets.
This is a good list, man.
I know Chris Godwin's legit, and he has had a resurgence. Garrett Wilson's been that guy. Davante Adams has been that guy. You just have to say it comes down to the quarterback, hands down.
I think I got to go Jets. I got to go Jets too.
Baker's not bad, but he's not Aaron Rodgers.
I got to go Jets too. I mean, just all in all, talent wise, I know for a fact that either Davante Adams and or Garrett Wilson is way better than Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin might be having a good couple games or whatever, even though he's hurt now. You know what I'm saying? He's done some things in the past. But dude, they're way better. And one of them probably I could say is also better than Mike Evans. Mike Evans is a weird guy because he'll have a couple good games, and then like he'll have a couple mediocre games. But like even in his mediocre games, it's like it ain't really his fault that he ain't getting the ball. You know what I mean? So it's like it's there. Mike Evans is usually always open because even if he's guarded, he's one of the best at catching, contested, well defended balls. So like you got Mike Evans who's been doing it for a decade now, straight, no problem, 1,000-yard seasons. But do I think that talent wise that he's better than Davante Adams? Probably not. Do I think that talent wise he's better than Garrett Wilson? Obviously that's a debate. But would I say that either Garrett Wilson or Davante Adams is in debate as to, comparable to Chris Godwin? Absolutely not. So give me the Jets.
Next
name. And of course, Aaron Rodgers.
Detroit Lions, Jared Goff, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams.
Give me those guys all day. especially right now.
Lions?
Yes. Amon-Ra St. Brown, slow start to the season, and now he's starting to find his way. By the way, in one of my leagues, we'll see how genius this was. I traded Derrick Henry for Amon-Ra. And I think someone else too, but for sure Amon-Ra is the main one. I'm like, granted, I have guys on standby, like my running backs are Kenneth Walker and Josh Jacobs. So it's like we'll figure it out. But I'm like, you guys are sleeping on Amon-Ra. You think this early surgence of Jameson Williams playing the way he's been playing the first few weeks of football, and then Amon-Ra just not really getting the share that he's supposed to be getting, and then Jared Goff this season literally having a perfect game, no incompletions, really good wins against really good teams. Okay, I would say you guys don't think Seattle's a really good team, but it took them having damn near 40 points to win that game against Seattle. Okay, and then they had to do it again against the Minnesota Vikings. All right, listen, the Lions are real. Jared Goff, as of right now, is a really good quarterback. He may not have the prettiest stats. He's a really good quarterback. And Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, I think right now are probably comparably but slightly better than what we're seeing in New York.
I respect it. It's just Jameson Williams for me.
It's a hot take.
He's not better than Garrett.
It's a hot take. But I'm saying though, he was supposed to be a guy, first round draft pick. Some things happen in the league, injuries. And then also, I think he had a suspension too.
And he got suspended again this season.
Yeah.
2 games.
And then he comes and then he comes back and then it's like, whoa. I ain't getting that from Garrett Wilson right now, brother. That's all I'm saying. Not right now.
Next trio. Our guys would love to be here. San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel.
Jets.
Easy. Give me the
Jets.
Jets.
Ayuk was a waste of money. I'm sorry. He's a waste of. I'm not even saying because he got hurt. I'm saying because
before he got hurt, he wasn't.
Yeah, I'm like okay, like you remember they were talking about like T. Higgins being a number one somewhere else. Like, oh yeah, T. Higgins could totally lead the Bengals and be a superstar somewhere else. And there's another guy too that was the same way. What's his name? Oh my god, and it just didn't pan out. I think that we're seeing what would happen because here's the thing. Ayuk got big receiver money, right? Okay, would he go somewhere like Cleveland and change that offense?
No, sir.
No, he wouldn't. Okay, so are we going to say that he's comparable to like an Amari Cooper who doesn't make remotely close to that kind of money? That's all I'm saying. I think that Ayuk was an early jump because of a good season that he had, and I think the Niners are the kind of organization where it's like they need to keep guys around. Okay, they're not gonna lowball themselves and like just risk it with just, hey, we got just Deebo. We're gonna hope that it works out. I mean, look at their team. At one point, dude, you got Trent on the line, you got CMC. They lucked out with Brock Purdy, okay, but before that, I mean, they were going to, who was it? Trey Lance. That's who was before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trey Lance, and then
Jimmy.
Also, and Jimmy, obviously, but it's Jimmy. But and then you got Ayuk, and then you got Kittle. It's like, Jesus Christ, man, what more do you need? And then look at their defense. The year that they played us, like their defense was awesome. It still is. It still has the potential to be like a really good defense. They are a good defense right now. Like the Niners are the kind of team where it's like they're going to spend this money and get these guys and like just hope that it works out. I don't think that Ayuk was worth it, personally. I really don't. I really don't. I'm not saying that he's a terrible receiver. I'm not saying that at all. So let me go ahead and put that out there for Toddy and Shaun. I'm not saying Ayuk's terrible. I'm just saying I don't think that he's a top receiver in the league. I don't know where that came from. I really don't.
All right. Last trio. Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Jets.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jets as well.
Yeah, Jets.
I really wanted to throw the Vikings in here, but Addison and Sam Justin doesn't carry that trio enough.
Yeah.
He doesn't carry that trio enough. But that will conclude episode 117 of Stats Over Politics. Please continue to show your guys' support. We are growing every day, and we appreciate you guys so much for doing it. We're coming in and week out, giving you guys content, just making sure that we can give you guys what you want. You guys want the content, so we're going to make sure we give you that. Please continue to follow us on Instagram, all of our other social medias, TikTok and X now, not Twitter. Cass, where can everybody find you?
Well, I do stream, I would say almost daily on Twitch, Casimir TV. If you like NFL content, sport content, on Instagram, Casimir TV, or YouTube, Casimir TV. So Casimir TV everywhere. Also on, I call it Twitter. I ain't calling it X. It's Twitter, all right? So on Twitter, you can find me at Casimir TV. And then if you happen to be someone who is into fitness, looking for personal training or fitness motivation, SSJ Casimir is my fitness channel. That is what I do for work. So if that's something you're into, make sure you reach out to me on there. Give me a follow, shoot me a DM, say what's up. But other than that, yeah.
And before we get out of here, guys, we have an announcement to make. Starting from now, this week, every Friday, we will be coming out with an NBA podcast. So we're going to make sure that every Monday we give you guys that NFL content, and every Friday we're going to give you the NFL content. We didn't want to cut up the episodes in half and have to shorten the content. We want to make sure that, like I mentioned, we're giving you guys what you want. But before we get out of here, Kaz, we have our two guys in the comments saying the same thing. We're cut. We're hella cut.
Chef it in the kitchen. Chef in the kitchen.
Hey, man.
Stir it up.
Well, extra well done. It's over for you guys. But that is going to conclude episode 117. We will see you guys Friday. But me and Cat Cash will be back next Monday for some NFL talk. So we will see you guys then. We are signing off. You guys have a great night.